If you're over 50 and you've ever thought, I'm too old for all this prepper stuff, I need you to sit down for a second, because I've spent 20 years building disaster recovery plans for Fortune 500 companies, and I can tell you something the prepper YouTube world will never tell you. Your age? That's not your weakness. It's your single biggest asset in an emergency. FEMA's own administrator called people your age force multipliers for preparedness. And today, I'm going to show you exactly why, and give you the 5-step protocol to prove it. Pour your coffee. Let's go. Here's the assumption most prepper content runs on: survival is a young person's game. You need to be able to run. You need to bug out. You need to carry a 70-pound pack up a mountain. That's Hollywood. In corporate business continuity, the actual work I spent 2 decades doing, none of that matters. Not one Fortune 500 disaster recovery plan I ever built assumed an employee would scale a cliff face to restore a server. What we built plans around was this: systems, not stamina, a written plan, a communication tree, the discipline to follow, both when everyone else is losing their head. And here's the uncomfortable question nobody asks. Which age group is statistically better at all 3 of those things? It's not the 25-year-olds. I'll come back to that. For now, I want you to understand why the household preparedness advice you've been fed, the tactical gear, the bug-out fantasies, the $5,000 loadouts, is built for a problem you're not going to have. The problem you're actually going to have is a 3-day power outage, a hurricane evacuation, a pipe burst at 2 in the morning in February. And you, my friend, are uniquely equipped to handle every single one of them. Let me hand you the first 2 of your 5 hidden advantages. Advantage 1, institutional knowledge. In corporate DR, this is the most valuable asset in any crisis, and you can't buy it. You know where your water shutoff is. You've lived through the storm that flooded the basement in '04. You know which circuit breaker trips when the air conditioner and the microwave run at the same time. A 25-year-old renting a 1-bedroom doesn't have this. You do. And in an emergency, that knowledge is worth more than any gear on Amazon. Advantage 2. Your network is already built. FEMA's Take Control framework for older adults lists 3 steps. Assess your needs, make a plan, and engage your support network. Most 20-somethings would spend 6 months building a support network from scratch. You already have one. Your neighbor, your church, your HOA, the guy at the hardware store who knows you by name. Decades of community ties. In corporate continuity, we call that a communication tree. And it's the first thing we build in any DR plan. You already have one, you just haven't formalized it yet. Homework for this section. Tonight, write down 5 people you would call first in a household emergency. Spouse, adult child, neighbor, out-of-state contact, doctor. 5 names, 5 numbers. That's step 1. It takes 10 minutes. Do it. Quick thing. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the button. I drop one of these every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern. No fear-mongering, no tactical cosplay, just plans that work. Advantage 3. You've already survived the tabletop exercise. Remember when I said I'd come back to the question of who handles crises better? Here it is. In corporate DR, we run tabletop exercises, simulations in which we walk executives through a hypothetical disaster to see how they respond. A 25-year-old has never been through one. You've lived through Y2K, 9/11, the 2008 financial crisis, a global pandemic. You've done 4 tabletop exercises for real. Think about what that means. You know what it feels like when the grocery store shelves empty out. You remember what it's like when the stock market drops 30% in a week. You were there when everyone was convinced computers would brick themselves at midnight. You've seen institutional panic, and you know it passes. That calibration, that this too shall pass muscle, is something no YouTube video can teach. It only comes from lived experience. You have it, they don't. Advantage 4, you have a financial cushion, even if it doesn't feel like it. Home equity, an insurance policy, a savings account, even a modest one, a 401k balance that's been compounding for 30 years. Compare that to a 28-year-old with $800 in checking and $40,000 in student debt. You're not starting from zero, you're starting with leverage. But here's where it gets real. Most people in your age bracket have 3 financial gaps that will absolutely wreck them. Let me label them clearly, the way I'd label them in a corporate risk register. Gap 1. Outdated homeowners insurance. If you haven't reviewed your policy since before the pandemic, your replacement cost limits are almost certainly wrong. Construction costs have jumped significantly since 2020. A policy that would have rebuilt your house in 2019 probably can't do so today. Gap 2. No flood coverage. Standard homeowners policies don't cover flood. You need a separate policy from FEMA's National Flood Insurance Program or a private carrier. If you've never checked, the odds are you don't have it. Gap 3. No electronic benefits deposit. FEMA's own guidance for older adults says this straight out. A disaster disrupts mail service for days or weeks, and if you depend on Social Security or benefits checks in the mail, switching to electronic direct deposit is one of the simplest, most important preparedness moves you can make. Advantage 5. Discipline. The number one reason corporate disaster recovery plans fail isn't the plan. It isn't the budget. It isn't even the disaster. It's people not following the plan when the moment comes. And here's the honest truth. The compliance data on DR drills skews hard in favor of older employees. You show up, you follow through, you read the manual. The prepper world is full of guys with $5,000 in gear and no plan. You're the opposite, and in a real emergency, that's exactly what works. And if you remember duck and cover drills, and I know some of you do because I read the comments, you already have the muscle memory for emergency response. You grew up when every American school practiced a coordinated civil defense protocol every month. You were running tabletop exercises at age 8. You just need to update the playbook from hiding under a desk to shelter in place with your household binder. Same instinct, new procedure. The instinct is still there. We just need to point it at the right thing. If you want the specific 5-step insurance audit I mentioned, that's the video linked right above this one. 5 insurance mistakes that will bankrupt you after a disaster. Watch that one next. So here's your recap. You have 5 advantages most of the prepper world will never tell you about. Institutional knowledge, a built-in network, real crisis experience, financial leverage, and the discipline to actually follow a plan. Those 5 things are the entire foundation of every corporate disaster recovery plan I ever built for companies that paid 6-figure consulting fees to get them. You just got the same framework for free. Here's your one homework item this week. Download the free household emergency binder. The link is in the description. It's the same framework I just walked you through. Already printed, already organized, ready for you to fill in. 1 page a night, 1 week to a complete household disaster recovery plan. That's it. The only difference between a Fortune 500 DR plan and yours protects the people who actually matter to you. I'm Ernie. This is Prepared Not Paranoid. Build the plan, skip the panic.